Hey guys, this is a quick review on combining integers. And what do I mean by combining? I mean adding, subtracting, dividing, multiplying integers. Integers being negative, positive, whole numbers, basically. So let's quickly take a look at how we do that. First off is when we add integers, we typically are used to just adding and subtracting whole numbers. In this case, positive numbers, like 5 plus 3, right? But what happens if one of them is negative? Well, if one of them is negative, like let's say negative 3, you're not going to be able to combine those two because one's positive, one's negative, right? On a number line, we typically think, okay, on a number line, in the past, we have just dealt with positive numbers, right? We haven't dealt with the negative realm. We just dealt with the positive realm. And so we've always thought, okay, 5 plus 3, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 plus 3, if I add 3, I'm going to go in this direction 3 places until I get to 6, 7, and 8, right? Until I get to here. Here it's the same thing, except our number line has expanded now to the negative realm, if you will. And if I'm at 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, when I add negative 3, and I say negative 3 as a quotation, you're not really adding negative 3. You can't go in this direction if you're adding negative 3. You're actually going this way. So 1, 2, 3, you're going to end up going over here to where it's positive 2. Okay. Another thing to think about is this. If I have $5 and I say plus as and I lose 3, that means I have $2 left in my pocket. So it can work either way. You can have a positive integer up front or negative. Let me see if I can focus this a little bit better. For some reason it's not as clear as I'd like, just now noticing it. Okay, maybe that's a little bit better. Same thing if I had a negative up front. Let's say I had negative 7 plus, let's say 4. Okay. Here in this situation, if I owed $7, right, and I got 4, well, if I paid that part of that 7 off, I wouldn't be able to pay it completely off. I'd still owe $3. It'd be negative 3. So a lot of times I think of in terms of money, that might make a little bit more sense with integers, especially when you're adding and subtracting them. But as far as the number line is concerned, let's say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, right? Negative 7's right here. If I wanted to add 4, I start here, and I want to add 4, I go in this direction. 1, 2, 3, 4, I go right here. And this place right here is negative 3. So you can use the number line to kind of demonstrate kind of where to go or where you end up. So that's just adding and subtracting integers. Oh, one last thing I forgot to mention is, let's talk about subtracting a little bit. When you subtract, you're actually adding to that side. So if I owe $8 and then I owe 1, I'm going to owe a total of $9. Right? If you're already in the hole and you subtract from that, you're going to go further into debt. Right? Or if I dig 8 feet down and then 1 foot deeper than that, it's going to be 9 foot down. Right? But it's negative because it's going down. Just like temperature, it's going down. You lose money, it's going down. Right? You're going into the negative. Also, if we were to subtract a negative, so let's say I've got a problem similar to this, but let's say I've got a negative 8 minus a negative 1. Well, some of you guys remember when I say this, when you have two negatives next to each other, just like this, a negative negative, a minus minus, you want to basically make that into a positive. Okay? And it's basically what this really is just negative 8 plus 1. Now, negative 8 plus 1, we just go back to something like this, right? Like number 3. Obviously, can't add those two. You're going to have to find the difference. The difference is 7, and we go with the one that has larger absolute value. This has more absolute value, so this is going to be negative 7. Okay. The big reason why we do that is because it's kind of like me saying, don't jump. If 1 was jump, and I said, don't jump, that means don't jump. But if I put another negative in front of that and say, don't jump, I'm basically saying jump. Right? I'm saying the opposite. So those two are going to counter each other. And that's basically what happens here. All right, now, I know this is just a quick review, So it's kind of a refresher. But the last thing is, when we're multiplying and dividing integers, when you're multiplying and dividing, really, it's pretty simple, especially if you're just talking about two integers. So if I have a negative, and I multiply it by another negative, I'm going to come out with a positive. Just like if I were to take a positive times a positive, I get a positive. So if the signs are the same, I'm always going to come out with a positive answer. But if the signs in any way, shape, or form is different, right? Negative times a positive, or positive times a negative, I'm always going to come out with a negative answer. So signs are the same, positive. Signs are different, negative. It's simple as that. Okay? It just gets a little complex when you have more than one number that you're multiplying. And so let's come up with a couple examples. So like, let's say -5 times -2, right? Sometimes you'll see it like this, sometimes you'll see it like this. But it basically means the same thing. Again, signs are the same, positive. If the signs were different, like this is going to be negative. Okay? So just remember that. Now the last caveat to that would be if you had another number. Let's say -3 times 2 times -1, for example. Well, these two together would make a -6. But once you have a -6 and you times it by -1, you get a +6 because you have two negatives. So a lot of times what I do is I just multiply it straight across. 3 times 2 is 6, 6 times 1 is 6, and now look at the signs. Okay, how many negatives do I have? Well, I've got two negatives, one here, one here. Well, those two negatives are going to counter each other, much like this one did up here. So it's going to create a +6. Okay, so a lot of times what people say is if you have an even number of negatives, like I have two negatives here, let's say add a couple more numbers, like let's add another -4 here up front. Let's say I had -4 times -3 times 2 times -1. Well, if you have three negatives, this will end up turning to -24, right? But if you had another negative on top of that, all of that, right? Let's say I have 4 negatives. Well, because you had 4 negatives, they'll all, basically, this is going to count each other, this is going to count each other, so you just have it up 5 times 4 times 3 times 2 times 1. And that would be 120, right? 120. That would be positive. All right, so that's basically it. The only last thing I wanted to talk about quickly was if, for example, you had more than one thing going on at a time. So let's say I had a -2 times 3, and I add 1. Okay? Well, you always want to follow order of operations. Order of operations is please excuse my dear Aunt Sally. So you want to look for parentheses first, exponents multiply, you want to divide, and you want to add and subtract, right? And a lot of times you'll definitely know, you definitely do this first, for sure. You definitely do that second, for sure. Multiply and divide, honestly, you could do either one. You really could do either one. Typically, you want to start left to right. If all you have left is multiply and divide, you want to go from left to right, and it could be multiply first and then divide, or it could be divide then multiply. It kind of depends on the problem. So, but you definitely do this first before you do the adding and subtracting. Okay. So you want to follow in that direction, in that order. So here, I've got multiply, then I've got addition, so I don't want to add yet. I want to multiply first. So -2 times 3 is -6. Then I add my 1, I get -5. Okay? So make sure you follow order of operations when it comes to combining integers, especially different functions. That's it. I'm going to try to keep this less than 10 minutes. So hopefully this helps. God bless, guys, and I'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.